Boom! Hello and welcome to the Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Byron Rodgers. This podcast is dedicated to the executive protection practitioner, the private security professional. In this podcast, we're going to talk about the mental, emotional, psychological, physiological fitness that goes into being an efficient and effective executive protection agent. Whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're a mom that's looking at how to protect her children, or a father that's focused on how to protect his family, I believe this podcast has something for all of you. We might even get into some tales from the crypts of true Hollywood stories from time to time. I'm doing this podcast because I feel the reality of this job is simple. If you really want to be good at executive protection, it's more than just a job. It really is a lifestyle. And those of you who've been in the game for any serious amount of time, you already know what I'm saying is true. So if that sounds interesting to you, enjoy the show. Out. Boom. Hey, what's going on, guys? Byron Rodgers of Executive Protection Lifestyle here. I've got Tobin, who's here with me of HighCom Security Services and Protection Circle. About to have a great conversation. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, it's an honor. I've been following your stuff through Protection Circle and your blog for a while. So it was, I've been reposting some of your stuff, learning from your stuff. So I'm glad to have you on and get the word out and share all the kind of cool stuff you've been doing.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks a lot, man. I think we only met maybe very briefly.
Yeah.
Post Protection Conference in Vegas in December. But yeah, I mean, I've been following you for a while as well, and it was really cool to finally see you in the flesh.
Yeah, right. And it's funny with this digital space now. You tend to you almost feel like you know someone.
Yeah.
Before you know them, because you see so much of them if you're following them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's cool. I don't, there's a lot of people who say a lot of stuff about, keep in touch online and being friends online and Facebook. I think it's great. I mean, you see somebody that you haven't seen in a while and you don't really you can hit the ground running. You already are beyond hey, what's been going on with you? I know what's been going on with you, and vice versa. So it's all good.
100%. I won't, if I really want to keep in touch with someone, it's kind of more constructive to get their social media handles than a phone number. You know what I mean? Because how often you can actually call the dude. Yeah, brother. All right. The first question. I love this question. I just always find it humorous because it's that moment in the security detail where the other guys don't know your background. They get a hold of you in the CP, or they get a hold of you in the chase vehicle. And they're like, so man, what's your background?
Wow. I have a pretty varied kind of background.
Awesome.
For starters, I was born and raised in Israel. So I'm, I suppose you could say Israeli background. As you can hear, my English is at least half decent. I grew up bilingual in Israel. My parents are American Canadian. And Israeli background. I grew up on a small kibbutz in northern Israel, just south of the Lebanese border. Very lively area back in the 70s and 80s and 90s with all the rockets we used to get from our not so friendly neighbors up north in Lebanon.
Mm-hmm. I love Israel, for the record.
Yeah, I saw the picture. You've been there a bunch of times.
Yeah, I've been there I've done over a dozen ops in and out of there. And it's if there's a place I want to find an excuse or a way to be operating or going to, it's always Israel. I love it.
Yeah, man, I'm jealous. I get to go about once a year for a visit, and it looks like you, I don't know, at least from the photos, it looks like you get to go there way more often than me. So
I find some excuses, man. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I grew up on a kibbutz. Kibbutz is a farming commune for those who don't know. So I grew up on a farm. Working the fields, driving tractors, all that kind of stuff. And IDF service, like everybody else, after high school, I became a tank commander in the IDF. Served in quite a few different arenas, a bunch of training, some combat operations up in Lebanon, and everything from the Golan Heights all the way down to the desert. Way down close to Eilat, which is on the Egyptian border down there. give you an executive summary. So after the IDF, I spent about 4 years living in Japan, pursuing a childhood dream to study martial arts there. I got into martial arts way back when I was 17 and just practiced whatever I could, anything I could, from karate and kung fu and the special forces guys I would know from the IDF would teach me stuff. And of course, a lot of Krav Maga and everything. But Japan, it was my passion there was for Aikido and also for a stick fighting art, a very traditional stick fighting art called Shinto Musoryu. And I spent about 4 years there practicing, studying martial arts, then decided to move to the US mostly to get a university degree and then go back to Japan with the degree. And that part never worked out because I stayed put. And the rest is pretty much what kind of I've been doing, going to school. And during that time of getting into college, I got into the security industry for a kind of a mixture of a good situation with a job for a student, plus living in the Bay Area back in 2002, 2003, 2004. I really, really wanted to get into security, particularly to help the Jewish and Israeli communities here, because it was a really, really crazy period. And there's just a lot of stuff, anti-Israeli stuff happening with the second uprising, which kind of blended, at least in the Bay Area, blended really oddly with the anti-war movement. And there were, I would go to see and photograph these massive, massive protests against the Iraq war. And half of it would be just vile stuff against Israel, which it just seemed like, what do we have to do with it? Leave us alone. Like we have nothing to do with that. But it was just getting really, really nasty. And I wanted to do something. So
wow.
I found this company called HiCom Security Services, where I'm still there. I've been in HiCom for over 14 years now. And primarily what the company does, pretty much only did back then, but still does to a great extent now, is work with the Israeli and Jewish community here in the San Francisco Bay Area on Israeli methodologies of terrorist activity prevention that are utilized in an environment that's very different from Israel. So that was just exactly what I was looking for. Yeah.
Israeli methodologies for terrorist activity and prevention.
Yeah, for terrorist activity prevention. Yeah,
prevention.
To prevent terrorist activity. So, it's kind of a loaded, it's kind of a pregnant statement because you got to unpack what that means. For starters, we are not in Israel here. So stuff cannot work the same way. We are in the Bay Area. Be it for straight up terrorist activity prevention or for just general hostile activity prevention and preventive security, it doesn't work the same. I don't know if anybody, very well how things are done in Israel. Customer service is way down the food chain there.
Efficiency is way up.
Yeah, and here it's obviously the reverse of that. So many things, be it with customer service or be it altogether with your operations and with your capabilities, have to be modified for a very different environment here.
Wow. I dig it, man. That's good to go. I like that. That's an interesting background. So you were hanging out in Japan, just getting your blood sport on, like we see.
Yeah, man. That was a huge part of my life. It still is. I still do practice. But yeah, I absolutely was living it. I went to do that. That's the only thing I did. I only worked to make enough money to survive. And that's all I did there.
Wow. Is there a certain style or discipline that really stands out to you? Yeah.
So, I mean, Aikido was the thing that really, really grabbed me. And I know a lot of people, particularly in the security industry, who are into anything that has to do with MMA kind of stuff or efficiency and Krav Maga. I'm really into Krav Maga as well. Aikido really grabbed me for a number of reasons. I think, I've always had this sort of unconventional kind of mindset about stuff. And Aikido is very unconventional in what it does and its way of thinking. And a lot of people, don't get me started on a lot of the misconceptions about Aikido, that it's not effective and that it's not useful. It's
theoretical martial arts.
Exactly. That it's just not a true way of looking at what Aikido is. Aikido is not supposed to give you techniques from class, are not supposed to be techniques that are applied in that way in the field. So all those funny videos on YouTube of Aikido people getting their asses kicked are idiots who don't understand what the Aikido techniques are supposed to do. You don't apply it like you do in the class. It doesn't work that way. You're working on concepts that help you with other things. Most of the martial aspects of it have been stripped away because you're working on other things. And that's why, for me personally, Aikido alone has never been enough. And I like to combine it with Krav Maga and with other hard arts that I've practiced, because I do want the practical application of self-defense. It's just Aikido is kind of like the theoretical physics of what's going on behind it. And it really, really elevates everything you do beyond just hand-to-hand self-defense. It's everything.
It's like a mindset. Like
it's a mindset, and it's a physical set too, because it affects everything you do in your life. It affects how you move. It affects how you think about things. It kind of gets in your blood after a certain amount of time. So, I'll it's something that just happened. Actually, I was just on a detail. I was just on a detail. What was it? Thursday. And we had a speaker come in, someone from the Obama administration. It was doing a book tour, and it's just a middle-aged elderly lady. It was a very low-risk kind of operation, book signing and stuff after the onstage performance and onstage conversation she had. And I'm on stage, not too far from her. Again, this is a very low risk. There's no hostels or anything like that. But she finishes the thing and she walks to the backstage, and there's a kind of a leg of something that's protruding into. She's gonna bump into it. So I'm just, ma'am, watch your step, ma'am. Watch your step, ma'am.
Yeah.
She runs into it, right into it. Both feet. She goes into a full-on face plant. Again, I mean, you don't need terrorists and stuff. You're like there so much more for that kind of stuff, and the ability to not get confused, and the ability to move really, really quickly, and just grab her softly enough but firmly enough to keep her from face planting on the stage, and to lift her up and to just continue going just very naturally, very quickly, is something that it only a day later I kind of thought of. I was like, you know what? I don't know if like a non-Aikido person could have done something that quick. It's just the movement to go in there and to catch somebody's center of gravity, and to get them not to drop them on the stage, but the other way around, to make sure that they don't drop.
To understand the physics.
On her way to LA, the books tour has to keep on going, and I mean, if she takes a face plant, that's really, really bad. So it's everything in life. It's not just you're up against the bigger guy and you got to take him down or something action like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Just to understand the mechanics and the physics behind.
And it gets in your blood. So the understanding just comes just like that. You don't even think about it. It's just lightning fast and it's over. And what you did had all of those mechanics going on in the same time, getting under their center of gravity and just kind of controlling what's happening with another person's body in an instant. So just stuff like that, just interesting things like that.
Yeah, no, that's valuable, man. That's ultra valuable. Okay. So in your career, do you have like, a telling moment, a crazy circumstance or something like that kind of got you into what you're doing? That was
I'll tell you a story. So I got into security in 2004, only a few months after I was working for HICOM. This is the end of 2004 or the beginning of 2005. There was a suicide bomb that went off on one of the buses in Jerusalem back in the Second Intifada. And what they did for Israeli public relations and to counter the narrative, the anti-Israeli narrative, is that they took that bus and they basically did a tour of it all around the U.S. I think not just in the U.S. To show people physically what it looks like when a bus blows up and 15 people in there, I think something like 15 people died in there, and to show people the real reality face of terrorism and
the visceral, like, reality.
Yeah, you actually get to see the bus where it happened. It's not just something on TV. And so they're doing this tour, and it's come from Berkeley and to San Francisco. And in my mind, it's like, okay, a lot of people don't like Israel, but I mean, who can actually support terrorism? Who can come out and say that they're supporting terrorism? Nobody. I mean, this is going to be fine, right? I mean, a lot of people might think it's distasteful or they don't agree with Israel, but what about what Israel does and all that kind of stuff? But like, no one will really oppose it, right?
Yeah.
Wrong. I mean, and particularly the way wrong. I mean, and this is the shock I really got. So we're doing this thing. There's Berkeley PD. This is the first one in Berkeley. There's a good amount of Berkeley PD, but we're the only ones doing security. Free speech. They're not allowing us to do any perimeter. They're not allowing us to do any access control. It's a public park, and there's a lot of pro-Israeli supporters, but there are hundreds and hundreds of anti-Israeli protesters. And of these people, I'm talking about hardcore Palestinians, not just people who are there with Palestinian flags. I'm talking about kafia, head coverings, face coverings. I'm talking about ski masks. I'm talking about people who are chanting Allahu Akbar and Itbah al-Yahud, so kill the Jews and God is great and you'll be next and we're going to give you more buses like that and we wish all of you would die in buses.
What? Like, where is this?
This is in Berkeley. This is in downtown Berkeley. And, for an Israeli, I never even knew that Palestinians in ski masks, yelling that kind of stuff out at me in Arabic would be something that would happen in the Bay Area. So that was just a few months after I started. And I was like, whoa, this is real. This is no joke here. I mean, there's some real poison. There's some real venom in here that's directed at the Jewish and Israeli community, that people want you dead. And, to be confronted with it is really something. And at a certain point, they're, for the most part, held outside of that park, that center square in Berkeley. And PD wasn't really doing all that much to help us out because it was getting really, really ruckus. And at a certain point, dozens of them, a lot of them, all the guys with the face coverings and everything just starts running into the square, into where towards the stage where all the Jews are, with all the Israelis and Jews are, and they're just running in there. And at that point, all the people, mostly the kind of hardcore, there's a lot of hardcore Jewish Russians in the Bay Area, they turn around and start running at the Palestinians. Wow. And these two groups are just going in like some kind of medieval battle.
Hand to hand, swords.
And it's me and another operator on the other side. And he gives me a look and I give him a look and he's like, go. And we just jump right in the middle of both of those. And it's just, face-covered Palestinians on one side and crazy, enraged Russian Jews on the other. And we're just trying to keep everybody from killing each other. And only then did some of the cops come in to try to kind of help. And as soon as one of the Palestinians swung, I think at one of the
Russian Jews,
one of the people on the Jewish side, but he hit a cop.
Yeah.
And whoops, and that was pretty much the end of that because
it got more complicated.
And then boom. But yeah, it's and this is just a few months after I started working. I was like, wow, this is
real.
This is no joke here. This is some real stuff going on here.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. I mean, I did let's see, the last time I was in Israel, I was with Dadi when I did an episode with him as well a little bit earlier, Dadi Hanuch. He's a good friend. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah, I watched that. That was a good one.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I thought it was a great one too, man. And he was in Egypt for the revolution with a client.
Yeah.
Oh, talk about an operation just taking a hard right on you. Golly, and one of the things I remember as he explained the situation to me in Israel was just thinking like, man, like, we protect people. I protect people. I've protected people for the last decade. Some of it's been theatrics. Some of it's been just ego. They want a service.
Yeah.
There's no real threat. Some of them just don't want to be bothered. Some of them want to walk into the room with protection as a status symbol.
Yeah.
Some of them truly need protection. But with you guys, the situation there with terrorism and the domestic threat back here, it's real and it's been real. And it's the need for security is constantly validated. And I don't know, like I've always really respected that about you guys. And I've always really respected the, like the pragmatism you guys have, you know what I mean? Like feelings, the political correctness can all go fly a kite. And it's just like, no, this works. We do this way because of this. And for you guys, it's like it's been a survival thing. Seems like more than anything else.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, I mean, we do also get particularly, later, in later years after 2004, we do get a fair amount of what's considered more on the conventional side or more not necessarily on the high stakes Israeli and Jewish terrorist activity prevention side. Mm-hmm. But for us, we always have to, we all have to see who the client is or what we're talking about, what the risk level is here. And once we it usually doesn't take long to, because who the clients are, that if it's the Israeli government or if it's a prominent pro-Israeli or pro-Jewish public affair committee or something around here that is really concerned with terrorism, okay, that it's going to be this kind of thing. And when it's something a little bit looser or Silicon Valley or something like that, it can in many times be something a little less serious.
Less serious, a different dynamic.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not always about physical protection. Sometimes it's reputation. And sometimes
particularly, there's a lot of that going on, particularly when we get into the covert operations and surveillance detection where things need to be done covertly, not just necessarily because it's an operational necessity for the preventive effort, but because it's more of a public relations. We want the security. We don't want everybody to see that it's there because people will get freaked out.
Yeah.
Stock prices, what have you, will start going crazy. So we want it and we want to make it look like we don't have it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Awesome. At your core, who would you say you are?
Yeah, it's kind of a deep question. I am a deeply conflicted person, I guess, or ironic person. I have, I've always been like that. Living in Israel, speaking a large amount of times more English than Hebrew, hanging out with more people from outside of Israel than in Israel, moving to Japan and having a whole mishmash of a life, and then coming here and doing this Israeli thing, but also this Japanese thing. And I don't know, I'm a big mix. I think, I look at a lot of people in the industry and it seems like for a lot of people, it's very straightforward. It's very easy. It's very simple. You have say, for example, a U.S. Armed Forces to private sector security. And I sometimes even kind of, I'm jealous at people who have kind of a straightforward, straight line. I am zigzagging all over the place. Everything with me is comprised of just a million different things in different directions. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I dig it. Are there some deeper values in essence that would confirm maybe a few values that you would say? You know what? I value truth. And truth is a tricky subject because it's difficult to put your finger on it. But I try to find what is objectively true, not just subjectively true. And I try to base ideas, particularly in the security industry. And there's a lot of stuff that I write about. And I really try to base, if you're going to make an objective truth claim, you have to base it on objective logic and evidence. And
I really value that. And I really value people who are truthful about where they come. It's not that they're, it's okay to promote yourself. It's okay to do stuff. It's just, I really like the truth value of things where you don't mask it and you say it straight and you talk about what it's based on. And that's a big one for me.
Yeah. Just the validation through like kind of the empirically valid articles.
Yeah.
The more like you put the work in to verify this truth rather than just speaking off of your experiential information and things like this. And and in our world now where anyone can get online and put an article together or make some cool stuff on social media, I think that's even to be able to think that way is extremely valuable, to be able to look at something and use inductive or deductive reasoning to figure out whether or not it's like, this is even worth my time. Is going to protect you from a lot. It's extremely valuable.
And, and a lot of what I try to do also, particularly in my writing, because that's my main way of getting across, is to do all that, but to also not be afraid to say things straight up. So for example, I have an article, I'm about to put it out either today or tomorrow. It's just really about writing books. A lot of people ask me about my book, Surveillance Zone, and how I wrote it and what's your process. And there's a lot of stuff out there, articles about your writing process and what it takes and what are all the mechanics for it and stuff. And I wanted to share some of the reality that most people don't talk about. For example, how much is it going to cost you? How much did I pay? How many dollars of my own money did I pay? And how much did I make? And nobody really talks about that kind of stuff. And you know what? Bullshit. I'll tell you exactly how much I paid. I'll tell you exactly what I did. I'll tell you exactly how much I made. I'll tell you all of that kind of stuff because I think it needs to be said. I think there's value in that. And I don't find any reason to kind of sit back and say, talk about concepts or talk about this and you got to live the life. I'll tell you exactly what happened. I'll share all the details with you.
That's awesome. And we'll leave the sizzle for the article, so everyone can look at it. That's what's up. But no, that article's dropping today. Go check it out.
You just motivated me to. It's either today or tomorrow.
Heck yeah! All right, it's coming. That's awesome. And I agree. I totally dig it, man. There's strength in vulnerability and honesty like that. I'm a truth seeker as well, and it can be a very lonely place sometimes. And you can really upset a lot of people. But I feel so good and congruent when I can look in the mirror and be like, that's just what I genuinely believe based on what I think I know,
And you'll ruffle some feathers. Honestly, I thought I would ruffle way more feathers. I thought my book would get me booted out of any conference or anything. I thought that everybody would get pissed off at me for writing it. And it turned out to be the exact opposite. For every one comment about why are you bullshitting? Why are you talking about it? Why are you doing this? There's been hundreds of positive ones. I think if you put yourself out there and you're honest in what you do and you have an honest voice about stuff, people just immediately appreciate that and they immediately see it. And it opens you up a little bit. It makes you more vulnerable, but that's exactly what people appreciate, that you're really honest with them and you trust them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think and I think also you tap into like a deep reservoir of truth, probably that like they've been thinking or wanting to know or feeling, but no one said it yet. You know what I mean?
Or they're afraid to say it and stuff like that. And like I often said it in the book, I say it in articles as well. I've never been the best out there. I'm not, I'm just the guy who takes the time to write and be honest about it. A lot of people who might not feel comfortable saying it. I'm just saying it, and I think there's value in that. And I know there is because I get from all the feedback I get from everybody about it.
Yeah, heck yeah. I'm right there with you, man. Like, I think it's episode 1. I'm like, I'm not doing this because I'm the biggest, the baddest, the best.
Yeah.
I just want to contribute, and learn.
Exactly.
And that's the main thing. Like, I'm just not afraid to put myself out there.
Yeah.
Take some balls.
Yeah, absolutely. It does.
You know,
yeah, man.
I'm usually the shortest guy in the detail. I'm only 5'10", you know what I mean? But in some details. But no, it's like it's just being willing to get in the ring, man. I love that stuff. That's what's up. Is there something specifically that you took away from your time with the IDF?
Yeah, that's also a really tough one because, I could talk about all the stuff that is, I want to say more obvious of what the military teaches you to do, of what the military mostly teaches you about yourself.
Yeah.
And the self-reliance and the strength that you have more than you thought you have. And that it doesn't have to necessarily come out on a regular basis, but when it needs to come out, it's there. And I've had enough situations, say like the story with that I gave about the bombed out bus and that crazy situation. I have to say that was absolutely terrifying jumping in there. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. And, it's anything from stuff like that to dealing with medical things, or other kinds of emergencies. But, just like I said, there's a lot of internal conflicts going on in my head as well. I also learned a great deal from my time in the IDF about stuff like that, about experiences in Lebanon, experiences. And I wrote, again, I hate to repeat myself, I wrote an article about that as well. I keep referring to my articles because I think I'm a better writer than a speaker.
Yeah. Okay.
So, you're going to get a lot better of a version of it if you read rather than listen to me yap about it. But
okay.
a lot of the stuff, a lot of the conflicts, a lot of the things that I thought back then and later in life, you realize you shouldn't be all that sure that that's what actually was going on, and that the picture and the narrative you were getting back then and what you were doing was, it's a very, very strange kind of experience to look back and to see that not everything, and again, I'm trying to be honest and even vulnerable here in a sense, that not every single thing was as awesome as I thought it was. And some of the stuff that was going on, again, I maybe I shouldn't get into too much details, but not, some of the stuff wasn't all that great. And that it's the best and worst times of your life. So there's no question about that. And there's no question about the value, but I think there's also value in talking and being honest about some of the less than perfect things that you got out of it.
Yeah.
More understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I agree with that. I love that perspective to be able to look back on everything and to be able to be kind of like, and to see it soberly.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of hoorah when you're 19 and you're going into battle and stuff. And then you think back and then in a wider context, and it's like, wow, that was crazy, B, not what I thought it was for all those years.
Yeah, no, like especially with my time in the Marine Corps, like I just had a number of experiences that kind of disenchanted me, but also brought me closer to reality and then helped me operate from a place of being just much more, what am I really here for?
Yeah.
What am I really here for then?
It makes you a bit more skeptical.
Yeah.
That's the right kind of questions. Like, what is it? And again, going to that truth idea of what is this based on? Wait, what's the reason and the evidence behind what we're doing here? What's the rationale?
Yeah. And thinking that way and kind of waking up from that kind of like just ignorance was very good for me, because then it destabilized and translated into various areas of my life. And I believe it caused me to become my own person much more quickly, because that cognitive dissonance that comes from being like, we're here doing this and that, I mean, I can be honest with you. I had this Iraqi, we're like in this dude's living room. And I just remember being like, he's like, we are better off under Saddam. You guys are ruining everything. You were like, da-da-da-da. And he's like, yelling at us. And I'm like in my little like programming, I'm like, Saddam's the bad guy. I'm like, we're giving you freedom. I said something like this to him. And he looked at me like, are you serious? Like he looked at me like, you believe that? He was like, you
ruin everything. He's like, you go back to California, they come in here, take my daughter, chop my head off, da 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 da. You'll be back in California. He's like, freedom, and my programming at that point was just like, and I remember just being like, maybe I don't understand all the dynamics.
Yeah, because it's easy to turn around and start accusing that person of being ungrateful and all that. But you should think about what that means. I mean, it's usually not black or white. There's usually a lot more to it than that. But it is very useful. Like that. What is that saying goes that everybody, anybody can be fooled, and the easiest person to fool is yourself. Yeah. It teaches you to kind of get outside of yourself a little bit and look at things a little bit more dispassionately to see, am I right about what I think?
Exactly. Which is good, because then it goes into all the different areas, and I think you arrive at a higher level of consciousness because you get told a line of reasoning, and then you start being like, let me do my own homework.
Exactly.
Let's check a couple sources.
Yeah, exactly.
What were your big takeaways from Japan? Anything that stands out? Because you went into a whole nother culture.
Yeah.
You socially had to survive a whole nother culture.
It's a whole other world. I just buried myself in it. That's all I did. I didn't know about anything else. I didn't look into news or politics or anything. I was just completely, utterly, fanatically committed to what I did. And, it's an interesting thing. I at my age now, in my 40s, I usually kind of explain against, any form of fanaticism that that's not right. That's not balanced. But, in your early mid-20s, I think there's value in that because you learn a lot about yourself and about life, and to really, really put yourself into something. And it has changed everything about me. It's changed the way I move and walk and think. And
to again, go deeply into that the way you did.
Yeah. And, both with martial arts, but also just immersively in Japan feels like home to me. And I know it sounds odd to people who haven't lived there that I'm not the only foreigner, like non-Japanese person to live in Japan and then to just feel at home in Japan. It's just the weirdest thing because it's so different. But once you know the language and once you're comfortable with it, it envelops you in a way. It's very, very strange. I can't explain it really, but that's a huge takeaway that I didn't even expect to have a second home like that.
That's so beautiful, man. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a past life thing, a blood thing, whatever. I'm a Christian, but whatever. I don't know what it is, but I've heard as I've traveled, and been all over the world, certain guys will say that about certain countries. Yeah. For me, it's like, it's Israel, man. When I'm on the road into Jerusalem, there's this gas station you pass and I just feel, I want to call that place home, man. I love it. And you just have a connection to a culture, I feel. And it's even seems like it's an energetic thing. Yeah. But I feel like I understand you because I have that same connection.
Yeah. And it's interesting just to conflict the conflict. Yeah. Even though I try to be a rational person about everything, it's like, I can't explain everything. And that's one, and I'm perfectly fine with that thing still being some kind of beautiful mystery,
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful, man. That's awesome. Do you have a favorite quote, mantra, saying?
I don't.
Or two or three.
I know that a lot of people do. I've tried on pretty much everything I could find. Yeah. I have never found anything that stuck with me for long enough that I would say that's mine. I think my shtick is that I don't have one. That I adopt what works and I look at like a wide range of things that I like.
So you're Bruce Lee in this right here.
The way of no way. You said it. I didn't say it. Yeah.
I love it. It's beautiful. It's awesome.
What's yours, by the way? Let me turn it around.
Honestly, when you said that and you were like, I don't really have one. I was sitting here listening to you. I was like, yo, bro. And I was like, and then the little voice in my head was like, I mean, I wouldn't say, you know, I have a few that I love that are in and out of my life. You know, nothing will bring you closer to destruction than comfort is something that I say on a regular basis. Bruce Lee, absorb what is useful, disregard what's useless, and add what is essentially your own. I find that I love doing that. I feel like I can learn anything from anyone. You put me in a room.
Oh yeah,
If they're a bum, a crackhead, I don't care. I'll probably sit there and just the synergy of another human experience. I believe there's something anyone can take from that.
Yeah. That's a good one. I'm totally on board.
Yeah.
You know, that one kind of sometimes gets reduced to you have 2 ears and one mouth, so you should do listening and talking. I always thought that, you know, one of my I don't know if somebody came up with it or if it's just me kind of thinking about it, that anytime you have a conversation, say two people, so like you and me having a conversation, you're essentially exchanging information. And if you look at an exchange of information, you reduce it. It's not right. Exactly a perfect analogy, but if you look at it as like a buying and selling kind of situation, if you're doing more of the talking, then you're giving more, which is good. I mean, if you want to give more, you want to help people and you have stuff to give them, that's good. But if you want to also receive a good amount, then you should be more quiet and let them give you what they have. And even if what they have is you think is completely wrong, you're still getting information from that because you're getting a wrong perspective. You know it's wrong and it's coming from here. So maybe that you can diagnose it being like this and that. You learn something from everything, from everyone.
100%.
Make sure that the balance is right. If you want it to be that you don't talk more than you listen, because then you have a deficit.
Yeah. You're losing out in the engagement.
Exactly. Unless you're there to help other people. And then obviously that's the point of it.
Yeah. Situation dictating. Yeah. No, that's good stuff. I agree 100%. What would you say getting into now the private security stuff? So over your career, what standout lessons do you have about what you do in private security?
Standout lessons. I think maybe figuring things out on your own is a big one.
Huge.
You've learned and you trained, but now how's it going to be? So
like really,
like maybe a good analogy would be swimming. You know, you go through, okay, you know, this is the freestyle, but it's not the same when you jump in the pool, and it's perfectly okay. And I always discover, at least from myself, that wow, this is different, and so is this, and the experience of it is different. And in my mind, and what got me into a lot of the writing is like, why doesn't anybody talk about this part of it? Because damn, that was like nobody told me about this. It was crazy. That's like a huge part of what's going on here. So yeah, learn, you know, be conscious to what the experience is, and don't try to force the training onto the situation. Try to adapt it and then learn from the situation what might not have necessarily been covered by the training.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, for any walk of life, but that's because you have your ideas and you have your theories and things like that. But until it's validated by, you know, your experience and in the situation you're in, you know, because situation dictates tactics. And,
say the story with what happened in Berkeley with the bus, and it's like, well, security. I mean, we're going to have to put a perimeter. We're going to have to do access control. Guess again, no perimeter, no access control. Go.
I was like,
well, that's crazy. What are we supposed to do? You're supposed to do your best. Now go out and do your best. It's like, what am I? Yeah, you do it as best you can. Yeah.
Exactly. And especially for guys out there having to figure things out, or new guys, look, I agree 100%. Sometimes it's better for you to figure it out, because then you become intimate with the problem, and you also gain more self-reliance through that process. I think figuring things out is one of the most, one of the most valuable opportunities that we're ever given in life. think this whole thing's about figuring stuff out.
Yeah. And it's up to you to do it too. I mean, you can shut it off and not figure anything out if you don't want to, but that's why people like us recommend, oh no, never ever shut it off. Always keep thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's awesome advice. What would you say to new guys who would want to do what you do and get into the private security industry?
You know what? That's another tough one because there's so many different ways to get into it. I think training is a good one. Even if you don't necessarily need the training.
Yeah.
Because you know better. Oh, fair enough. I'm not, show me that you know better. If you come to a company like HiCom, and everybody who comes to HiCom, I'll give you a little, has to go through at least, there's the hiring process, and then they go through a 3 to 4 hour session with me where we go over security concepts.
Awesome.
We talk about terrorist activity prevention. We talk about a lot of different things and applications. And I've been doing this for almost a decade and a half, and everybody's gone through me. And it's very interesting to see people who are open and people who are not open to see. People who have amazing backgrounds, people who know way, way, way more than me, but can sit and can understand that I can't know that they know more than me. So show me that you have the discipline. Show me that you can engage. Show me that you can be polite. Show me that you can be respectful. Because if you can't be respectful to me at this point, how are you going to be respectful to my client when they start barking at you, right?
Yeah.
So
and the heat gets turned up.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to go in this in a humble way, even if you know better. You have to show it. You have to, and I don't mean show off that you know better, because that's not going to get you hired. You have to show that you're capable. A training, at least the type I'm talking about, is not just me delivering information to you. I'm judging how people are when they receive it. I'm judging and looking at how they accept it. And can they accept it, particularly the ones who already have a good amount of experience. If you're only showing me that you know better and you're bored, then I'm not putting you in front of my client. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Yeah. If you can't be respectful to a security professional who might not be as good as you are, how much more disrespectful are you going to be to a client when they start barking at you? So there's a lot more to it than that. And I would recommend going in with that mindset.
Yeah, I find it so interesting because it seems like at the genesis of what you're talking about is a character issue. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a character issue because we can teach someone anything tactically if they're at a certain level of intelligence, but the character issues are the true friction point, and they really dictate a man's success, a woman's success in this game. It seems like, you're interacting with them, and someone, your ex, whatever career, you've got more experience than me, blah, blah, blah. And then the other dynamic is when you get to a detail, there's going to be a professional at that detail that has the information you need to survive in that detail.
Yeah.
The client likes green Skittles. If you bring them the blue Skittles, whatever it is, but relative to that environment, this is your duty professional. This is your guy. And so, I agree with you. That's great advice. You got to go in with your cup half empty. And then, that ego, that character issue that you were talking about it's a killer. It is a killer.
Yeah. And I think the people I respect the most are the ones who, they have a real, I'm talking about, military, special forces, intelligence, agencies, counterterrorism, whatever, huge backgrounds that come and they go through. And I know, I've seen their resumes, and I know, and I trust that the person knows. But for somebody like that to sit in a session for hours and say, that was pretty good. Yeah, I thought that you did that really well, and that was really good, and there's really good information, and we chat about it a little bit, and it's of course, and I want to kind of learn a little bit from them as well.
Yeah.
But someone like that versus someone who sits and kind of this guy, whatever. I know all this kind of stuff. It's like, it doesn't, what do you?
It's not okay.
Yeah, because again, like we're judging the character. I don't know how to teach character. I used to try and I used to talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
I've given up. I don't.
Yeah.
I have not managed to find a way to teach that. You either have it or you don't. Yeah.
You're talking about some deep stuff. I think life teaches you character.
Yeah.
Because and I think you're either at a certain place in your development and your maturity to have it, because you probably don't have it because you don't see the value in it yet. Yeah. You haven't been humbled yet, or you haven't been, the tools you've used you think are the best tools for navigating reality. And so what I always say is like, I can teach you tactics. I don't want to be anywhere near you when you have to learn character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want my company to have anything to do with you while you have to learn these lessons.
Yeah.
I love you. God bless you. But you give me a guy that doesn't have any experience, but I know I can trust him, and he's humble and he's wanting to learn, and he's going to make mistakes, but he's really going to focus on trying not to make them, things like that. I love that guy, man.
Yeah. Those are great.
Yeah.
And I always give people the kind of disclaimer that, look, most people in the world can't do this kind of stuff. They're just not wired for it. And that's fine. None of my personal friends outside of HighCom can do that kind of work. And that's perfectly okay. They're superstars in other stuff that I'd like to be a superstar in, but they're not wired for this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And, I don't know how to teach somebody how to wire their head to be able to do that. Customer service is a big one where I always explain and talk about how everybody understands when you explain to them about politeness and hospitality and about the need to be polite to somebody who might be disrespecting you in your face. Yeah. Get the concept, you understand, but can you still do it not sitting comfortably, but out there, and you're tired and you're frustrated and you're annoyed and it's a high threat situation, and now smile. Can you still do it? And a lot of people are like, they can't do it,
Yeah, man. No, it's that Morpheus, knowing the path and walking the path. Two completely different things, man. Yeah. I know I shouldn't have those cookies late at night, but I want the cookies late at night. But yeah, man, that's, and it, once again, it comes back to character, man. Have you done the reps in real life to be able to have that character to, make those plays, treat the client the way that you should, treat the royal court around the client the way that they, need to be treated even sometimes, even though they don't on paper rate, you know what I mean? Yeah. But you still got to have that social intelligence, that character. Awesome. What do you enjoy least about private security?
There's a lot of stuff to not necessarily enjoy. I guess maybe the more frustrating stuff that doesn't necessarily count or mean much. And maybe that has to do with participating and being in enough operations where there's really important stuff happening and there's real risk here. Again, mostly on the Israeli and Jewish side, and to go through something that might A, not have been all that pleasant, and B, made absolutely no difference. And there was no real meaning to it. Is not my favorite. There are worse things in the world, that is just one of the things that comes to mind of not everything matters, and that's okay. It's good that the stakes aren't that high with every single thing we do. But that might not be one of my favorite parts of it. Yeah,
it can be painful. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, man. Yeah. You find yourself doing things sometimes that, the way I reconcile it is I try to think because I've had, I guess you could say I've had clients, require things or make me do things and I'm like, you don't need to be doing this. You're killed. Right now, does this need to be happening?
Or you know what? Or to continue that line, I guess. You can always find, almost always, I guess. If you can find the value, then that's good. Say, for example, that little thing we did on Thursday. Risk level so low. Do we really need 5 of us to be here on this detail? Yeah. And yet you find that you saved a speaker from face planting on the stage on their huge, boom, value. There's always something to be found. Not always. I guess I dislike the ones where it's like, you know what? There was nothing. There was no point to that. That was just complete, utter window dressing. Yeah.
Window dressing. Yeah, no, I dig it. I love the mental alchemy of it because that will make life easier and more pleasurable.
Yeah.
And then I also love the sometimes reality. You just got to accept it for what it is. Yeah. Try to enjoy it. Look forward to dinner. Pay attention to what you're doing. But that's funny. No, I agree. And that's been a friction point as well. And I sometimes will just be like, you know what? It's just the relationship. It's important to the client. It's important to me. Here we go. I'm just glad that this, fortifies my relationship with them. I'm giving them something they want.
Yeah. You know what? Then that's actually a really valid point. That's good. That's very true. Yeah.
Still the friction's there, man. I totally dig what you're saying.
Yeah.
What would you say you love most about the private security industry and what you do?
I guess making that difference, of really being there in the right time, in the right place, and making that difference. A lot of people think of that difference being some kind of reactive, action-packed kind of something that you saved somebody from something. Yeah. That's definitely a kind of difference you can make, and it's more thrilling and straightforward. But there's also a big difference you can make with preparation. Planning, with preparation, with good advance, getting somebody out, making something really, really slick and smooth, and reducing the friction and reducing the threat level. And that's just when you complete something like that and you get like a surgical result, it could be really, really satisfying to produce that. We have if we have a client that, again, I have probably a lot of stories about stuff like this where the client is really concerned about something and we can't completely prevent it. Another one of the things that I've also kind of written about is a big political organization that had a Palestinian student that was going to come and join, a very anti that organization, had to do with the Jewish Israeli community. And they're very, very concerned about him coming. And it's like, well, don't invite him. Don't let him in. We're not going to let him in. No. We have to for public relations purposes. But I mean, there's protesters on the outside. He's part of the organization protesting, and they're going to let him in. And is he going to prop open a door and let protest? Like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? So, you have a covert element outside with the protesters to make sure that nobody's collecting intel on the outside, that there isn't any kind of situation like that. He comes in, we screen him very, very well, and then I was involved in the covert internal element to make sure that he doesn't disrupt or that he doesn't prop open a door or something like that. We do have situations like this in some events, and we do have people who disrupt political events, and they have to be very quickly escorted out of the venue. But when you can plan something in advance and get really, really precise about that, and tell your client, we got you back. You're back. Nothing's going to happen here. Everything's going to be fine. And you make sure that indeed is the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. I think for me, I love this question because I hear protectors be we all kind of say the same types of things, not the same types of things. We really don't. But the principles are almost always there. That for us, it's so much of it is like almost like we weren't even there. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like creating this organic, safe environment that we move a client in and out of a situation, and it's like we weren't even there or nothing. The smoothness and safeness is just there, and that is really for a protector that just emerges very often as the highlight. And everyone thinks it's like when I stopped a knife attack with my, whatever. Nah, man. It's like literally every mission that is like, I stopped. And the thing is, in our industry, you could be, I mean, not literally, but like there's times when you're staring at King Kong coming down the street and you disarm the thing and you get it all, like something catastrophic. Like I was on with Barry Emosian of Talon Executive Services yesterday. He's telling me a story about him being proned out in Mexico and they got guns and they're trying to, rob them, plant guns on these guys. And he's sitting there and he's got his clients, the caravan, they're coming in their up armored Suburbans, and he's just sitting there. But by the time the clients get to him, and he tells it on the podcast, that's why it's okay for me to tell you. By the time the clients get to him, you know, their law enforcement assets have shown up, everything's packed back up, and they're just standing there with the federales, waving them through, cut them to the front of the line. The clients are like, "Wow, you guys did great," and they're like,
yeah.
You know, they're like, "Thank you." You know, that's it's when we do our jobs and literally it's just smooth and nothing happens.
Yeah. I like it when it meshes really well with protective intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
There's stuff that's collected protective intelligence wise covertly or from open sources or from something like surveillance detection, or if it's just some kind of something that comes up, information that comes up from advanced work, that you advance a venue before. But this prior knowledge and the ability to get really surgical in how smooth things go. And people think it's like, wow, these guys are smooth. This is like magic. How do you just show up and boom, everything's said, no, you have no idea how much work went into this. It's like, yeah, but I love it that it looks that way because you're like an illusionist, you know?
Yeah.
A trick. No, you didn't see the 50,000 times I had to rehearse that till I got it right. But still, the ability to impress somebody, not just anybody, but you know, somebody who counts and a client is a really great feeling.
Boom. Check it out, guys. You've been listening to the first half of a 2-part episode. We got after it, and I just thought it was best if I clip this one into 2 parts. So stay tuned and come back and check us out. I may drop it next week or I may drop it after a little bit. So just stay in the loop and we'll get you the second half of this awesome interview out. Boom. And to support this podcast, go to executiveprotectionlifestyle.com and contribute to our Patreon account. That Patreon account is what helps me make this podcast possible, contributing to this brand, what we're doing here, making it so that I can bring better guests on, making it so that we can plan more events and just expand the contribution to the private security industry, and also to making America a safer place by teaching people how to protect themselves and the mindset behind that, the lifestyle behind that. You guys are already killing it. $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever you can do that you know you would probably just lose in the mattress anyway or spend on McDonald's. Hey, you want to put it towards something that's going to good use, put it towards a podcast and get involved in our Patreon account at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. And if you want to find me, that's ByronRodgersMotivation.com. You know, do whatever you can, contribute whatever you can to that Patreon account because it makes all of these things possible, ladies and gentlemen. So much love. Thank you, and thank you for making those contributions. You guys rock. We're already doing amazing there, and it's just because of you guys. So thanks once again for those contributions. Boom. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of Executive Protection Lifestyle Podcast. This whole entire thing actually just started off as a Facebook group that blew up and is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing, executive protection Facebook group online. So if you haven't joined the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. Follow us on Instagram and check us out at executiveprotectionlifestyle.com. If you want to find me, that's ByronRodgersMotivation.com, and I'm on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook as well. So until the next podcast, y'all, stay sharp out there. And as I say it, one mind, many weapons. Talk soon. Out.